I don't think there's a football shirt collector anywhere in the world that hasn't at some point had a mishap with a washing machine causing damage to shirts like this. So stop making these 5 most common mistakes to avoid further damage to your shirts, and make sure you stay to the end because the last one is the most common without a doubt. Football shirts are made to be worn, not just to be looked at. But if you're anything like me, wearing them causes a fair bit of sweating. So being able to clean them is absolutely key. But what you're going to want to do, and take my word for this, is you're going to want to avoid these common mistakes that people make, causing damage that can be irreparable. The first mistake is people wash them too hot, like 50, 60 degrees washes. Those sort of washes might be fine for getting the stains out of your drawers or out of cotton products, but for football shirts, they will cause the spontaneous death of the name set, just like this. So you're going to want to avoid that. Stick with a wash of about 30 degrees. Most washing machines have a 30-degree cycle, and some even have an extra quick cycle, which is like 10-15 minutes long, and that is perfect for a football shirt. Now, if you're not using a washing machine and you're going to hand wash, 30 degrees, unless you've got a thermometer, is around about lukewarm to your hands. You can put your hand in and it doesn't feel too hot or too cold. The second mistake is using conditioner. Now, we all love the smell of a spring awakening or a ruby jasmine, but trust me when I say our football shirts don't share that same love. Using a conditioner can damage things like the name set, the vinyl elements of shirts and some badges and sponsors. And it's also been known to damage the material, the actual kind of fabric of the shirt. So please steer clear of conditioner. The third most common mistake is ironing shirts. I know, right? Who would have thought it? But judging by the number of shirts that I've seen, the perfect impression of an iron indelibly branded into the material, it seems like it's quite a common thing. So please don't iron your shirts. Iron marks are not fixable. That's it. What it will do is it will leave you with a permanent reminder of why it's not a good idea to iron your shirts. That said, if you do want to iron your shirt, and that could be either to press it, take the creases out, or maybe you want to apply, you haven't got a heat press and you want to apply a name set or a sponsor. Again, I don't recommend using an iron for this, but if you absolutely have to, then there's some things I would advise you do to avoid damaging your shirt. First one is make sure the iron is set to the right temperature. You know, set it to, normally I would say, put it on the first dot. So the first dot low on an iron, and I think I have measured the temperature, and certainly on my iron, the first dot is about 140 degrees, which is typically what a vinyl name set is pressed at. Maybe a little bit warmer, but it's typically what it's pressed at. And if you do that, it limits the amount of damage that will be done to the material. The second thing that you've absolutely got to do, in addition to setting it to the right temperature, is use something like this. Teflon sheet, or if you haven't got Teflon sheet, which is quite a cheap, readily available thing, but if you haven't got that, then some silicone paper, potentially also grease-proof paper, and you use that to make sure the plate of the iron never ever comes into contact with the material, because the second that plate touches the material, it's going to be a big burn hole and not good at all. Now, remember, if you're going to be ironing a shirt, again, I don't recommend it, but if you're going to do it, make sure you don't have the steam setting on, because if you're using something like this or a grease-proof paper and you're ironing it, the steam's going to hit that and burst straight back up and catch you in the face or on the hand, which won't be nice. So follow these tips if you're going to iron. The fourth tip is washing the shirt with other items. Now, I bet we've all had a cherished shirt damaged by a rogue bit of Velcro or a button on another item that's been in the wash with the shirt, and it's truly heartbreaking. So make sure you wash your shirts in solitary confinement. Now, if you look up there, we've got a video that goes into a little bit more depth about how to wash shirts. But in summary, wash them inside out and wash them in a laundry bag like this, and on their own, of course. Now, before we tell you our biggest washing faux pas, if you've liked this video, please remember to click like and subscribe. It really helps us with the algorithm, and it will mean that you won't miss any content in the future. And now the final, most common mistake that we see when people have washed shirts, and it's not strictly a washing problem, but it's a drying problem. Who would have thought it? Not all drying methods have been created equal. Some are better than others. Now the first way not to do it is in a tumble dryer. Never use a tumble dryer to dry your shirt. It will completely ruin your shirt. But on a positive, it will mean that you have a shirt to dress your action man in. The next drying mistake is, believe it or not, do not dry it in direct sunlight, especially if your shirt is a bright colour and if it's a one from like the 80s or 90s or what have you. Because what will happen is the UV rays from the sun will not only damage the colour and cause it to fade, it will also damage the fibres and make them go brittle and sensitive. The third way not to dry your shirts is on a radiator. Now, radiators can get very, very hot, and especially with shirts with vinyl name sets and vinyl sponsors. If you use a radiator to dry these shirts, when you take the shirt off, you might find you've got a nice Carlsberg or Venegal or Hesselink name set imprinted onto your radiator. So please, don't do it. So these are all ways not to dry it, which is great, but I hear you saying, well, how are we meant to dry it then? Well, the way to dry it is like this. Hang them on a clothesline, somewhere where you can get a bit of fresh air and what have you. And my mum always used to say to me, hang tops from the bottom and bottoms from the top. So hang it like that on the line, like I say, not in direct sunlight, but somewhere where it can get some fresh air. If you're going to use clothes pegs, then use them as close to the side seams as possible. You don't get any nasty kind of marks from drying them. So just hang it like that on the line. It will take a little bit longer. But as with all things when it comes to football shirt restoration and caring for them, patience is a virtue. Your shirts will thank you, I promise you. I hope you've liked this video. And as always, if you have liked it, please remember to click like and subscribe, and then you won't miss out on any future content. And if you've got any other tips that you want to tell us about, because we don't know everything, please leave them below in the comments and we'd love to hear them. So until next week, thank you very much.